I was thinking about childhood. So many times, guys, I know we talk about childhood trauma. All of this stuff stems from childhood.
Yeah.
You just have messages just bombard you that you don't know how to decipher or critically think through. And so they just become a part of your programming. And so as a child, nothing was ever good enough. My grades weren't good enough. If I did the dishes, they weren't good enough. Or if I did the laundry, it wasn't good enough. My room wasn't clean enough. Nothing was ever enough. And so it was like no matter how hard I pushed, no matter how hard I did, no matter how much I did, it wasn't enough. And then I was labeled as the smart one. And so being the smart one, if anything didn't come easy for me, it was just like self-proof. It was like, well, look, I'm not the smart one. And like kind of the same thing, people do this and they build all of these things up that they believe about themselves. And then they believe it about themselves because of what people told them. I believed that I wasn't good enough in any area of my life. And so I pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed so that I could prove to myself I am good enough, except I was pretending to be things that I wasn't because I was killing myself trying to prove a point, trying to disprove a point that wasn't even real to begin with. I have always been good enough. No matter what I've done, I've been good enough. But because of that messaging as a child, I was trying to disprove that programming in my head, and I feel like an imposter because I feel like the messaging that I was given of I'm not good enough is true, and no matter how hard I work, I'll never be able to disprove that. And that's where that imposter syndrome begins to breed and push and be there.
Well, and the duplicity comes into this where people have characterizations of who they think you are that may or may not be who you actually are, more times than not who you actually are. And so around certain people that have those expectations of who you are, you kind of have to play a role. You have to play the part. And when it's not who you are, that gets exhausting extremely fast. And I think this is why people feel this pull, this kind of back and forth, and then they feel like an imposter, because I think the wearing down mentally of having to, okay, which version of me is this person? And we've all been that way subconsciously in our lives. Like when we start talking about this topic and I started thinking about it, I'm like, holy crap, I have been in a duplicity kind of mindset for the vast majority of my life. And we're talking duplicity. I mean, it's over a wide variety of people. Well, this person I have to be this way. This person I have to be this way. This person expects this is me. This person expects this of me. And then meanwhile, who I am ain't nobody friends with or family with or have any connection with. I want them to know the real me. Now they do know the real me because I live my life authentically who I am, and it's why 90% of my friends left my life.
Yeah, and like, oh man, this topic is so like fresh for me. Because I'm in this place in my personal development journey where I'm exploring some other sides that I've never explored before. And in my own home and in the safety of my conversations with my best friend and my other friends and my husband, I feel safe to talk about these topics. And I don't feel like I have to pretend to be anything that I'm not. But it's when I begin to be around other people who have this mindset of who I am. And the struggle is they're not doing personal development. And so they can't accept the growth that I'm doing. And so I try to be, here's my imposter syndrome. I try to be understanding that they have a version of me that is, this is their bubble and this is their version of me. And I don't want to break their heart by being something that they don't see me as, but I'm breaking my own heart by not being who I am.
Well, and here's the thing that happens. You change because you grow. You become who you really are and start living more in your authenticity, which we talk about a lot here. But they still see you as that same person. And so they think you're going through a crisis. They think, and I've had this happen, a lot of people think this about me. Oh, you're just going through a midlife crisis and this is just a phase. And they don't realize, no, I've been playing a part with you all along. And now I need to be who I am so that I can be more grounded in who I am. So I can stop feeling the imposter syndrome. I don't want to live duplicity anymore. I want to live authentically real right here where I'm at. This is me. take me or leave me.
So an older thing that I did, that I talked about, I haven't really brought it up a whole lot lately, is this idea that there are 3 times in our life. We're either surviving, we're striving, or we're thriving. So many people in my life know survival mode Brittany. They know that Brittany, and they don't know what it looks like for me to be striving and thriving, because I never fucking have. I never have been at a place in my life where I could sit calmly and say I am thriving in life. And honestly, it feels unsafe. It doesn't feel comfortable to be like, oh, I'm thriving. It feels uncomfortable because I've never had that experience before. And so for other people, it almost, they feel like when they look at me in my life, and this is duplicity, go in there, when they look in and they see me striving for better and thriving in that achievement that I'm doing, they go, she's pretending, because they've only ever seen me surviving.
Yes.
And in my head, I feel like, oh, finally, I'm not pretending. I'm finally living my life. And it's this clash of back and forth. And it's, man, this stuff hurts. This stuff hurts.
Well, and I hate it too, because in recent years, I've gone through some difficult things that you know everything about. I will never share the full details about, because nunja is how I'm going to put it. But the bottom line is, I went through some stuff, and in the midst of that, I was not me. I was actually trying to find me. I didn't know who me was. And I found him, and I like him, and he's a cool guy. He's a really cool guy. But before that, people were seeing the version of me, survival mode Jimmy, and they were seeing, even in the transition over to finding who I am, I was a different person. And so a lot of those people still see me today as that version, and then they hear me say things now, or they'll hear about things, and they're like, how dare you? How, you're saying this, and especially like the Christianity people. Let's get on them a little bit. That's not very Christian, Jimmy. Why are you acting that way? And I'm like, it's honest. Like, I did a reel the other day of this guy singing,
fuck you. Oh, fuck you, fuck you. Fuck you, fuck you. Fuck, 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 fuck.
It was funny. And I was talking about how people left my life because I had difficult things going on, and I was changing and everything. And somebody on YouTube, they said that. They were like, that's not very Christian-like. I'm like, yeah, but it's what I feel. And so people have this concept of who you are. Guys, let's stop painting this picture of other people. Like, I literally have never done this with you, Brittany, of seeing you in some box. I always look at you as a blank slate. It's like, all right, what's the version of Brittany I'm getting now? Because she might change, and I need to be willing to go there with you, so you never feel like an imposter around me.
Oh, yeah.
I once have you. And so I feel like, a little bit off topic, but I think it's ancillary to what we're doing here today. I feel like we need to give people that blank slate every time we see them, and not just put the assumptions on. And I remember when I was younger, and I would go back to see my dad and everything after I'd been out of the house, and it was like, it was good for a couple of days, and then it was right back to where it was before. It's like, I'm a different person now. You need to honor the current version and not have this copycat duplicity version of what you think I am, because you're going to give me a complex. So.
Has almost turned into, instead of us talking about, like, talking at people who are struggling with imposter syndrome, it's almost as if we're talking to the people, hey, stop creating imposter syndrome in people by expecting something out of somebody, because that's the version of them you've always seen. And like, I just, for a second, I want to honor 3 people in my life, okay? Because I think that these 3 people in my life, I have never pretended to be anything that I wasn't, and they've literally always accepted it. And if I ever come up with some new harebrained Brittany idea, they're just like, sounds cool. How can I help? That's my husband, Wildman. I will not go into details. You guys know how much I talk about that man and how much I love him. And I did Jimmy called me out the other day. I wrote some sappy post. He's like, what's that for? What's that for? And I was like, just Wildman.
I said, get a room.
And it's because I know myself at 18 when we got engaged and got married. I know myself then, and I know myself now. And I'm looking at this man who's changed along the way as well. He's accepted every single change and never pushed and never said, oh, well, I don't know that. Like, he's just grown with me, and I love that. And then,
once, and then you tried keto, and then you went to the macros diet. So he has supported you all along the way.
yes. And then when I was like, I think I'm gonna write a book with Jimmy, he didn't say anything. He was just like, okay, awesome. How can I help? He's just always been the how can I help guy. And I love that. And then Jimmy, you know, I've literally never pretended to be anything that I wasn't with Jimmy. And I think it was like one of our very first conversations. It was just like, tell me what you got. Like, be honest, just say it. And I was like, okay, I will. And so then I just said, and I still say whatever comes to mind. I just say it. I don't even really care anymore.
Which is why we're on the phone for hours when we talk, because it's like we're just talking. And when you can be authentic with somebody and not have to have that duplicity, it's so freeing. So thank you, by the way. I feel the same way about you.
Yeah. Then the last person, she listens every week, so shout out to her, Brittany Binky. She's been on the podcast before. She's a great friend and been hanging out more often. And I literally just text her after one of our hangouts. I was like, you have no idea how refreshing it is to be around somebody that I don't have to be something. I just am me. And her and I have the same kind of conversations that Jimmy and I do. It's so freaking refreshing. And if I could say anything to anybody out there, please drop your boxes. Okay, again, this podcast has turned into something that I wasn't anticipating, but I love it. Drop your fucking boxes. I had to drop the boxes around my dad. I had a vision of my dad.
Yes.
And it fucked our relationship because I had this vision of who he was. And that vision of who he was didn't allow me to have a relationship. But when I finally dropped that and I stopped having my own idea of who he was and creating imposter syndrome and duplicity, and I just was like, okay, accept him as he is. We have an incredible relationship, and he's given me the same thing as well, where he's just like, I don't believe like that, but hey, you do you, boo. And I like that. And so yeah, I guess this is just a call to action to everybody. Please stop putting people in boxes. Stop doing that. Let them live their life and let them grow. And when you see something that might not be the version of them that you're used to, don't automatically dismiss it as if they're going through a crisis. Just accept them. And if they are into something that you're not into, hey, guess what? It's okay to walk away. Not ugly. Don't be ugly. But like, I've walked away from people in my life because we're just not on the same. I've grown in a different direction than they have. Does it hurt sometimes? Yes, absolutely. But I refuse to live my life being something that I'm not. I want to chase authenticity, and I want to give people the right to chase their own authenticity. And like, I can't do the fakeness anymore. And the imposter syndrome, I'm tired. I'm tired of looking like when I hold my book, I don't want to look at that and be devastated and think to myself, it's not good enough. I want to look at it and be proud of myself. I don't want to have like, I don't belong here. I want to be so proud. And I want that for Jimmy as well. I don't think you struggle as much as I do, but I know it's there.
Did you go keto and thought you had to give up wine? Well, let me introduce you to Dry Farm Wines. It is the world's first sugar-free alcohol that is lower than your typical wines, organic, made at local farms that do it the right way. Most of the wines that you buy are from 3 really big companies, loaded with additives and preservatives, so many dozens of those kinds of things. You don't want all that junk in your wine. So go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and they will ship you these wines. And just because you listen to this podcast, Dry Farm Wines is going to give you a bottle in your first order for just 1 cent. Go to dryfarmwines.com/Jimmy and you will get your bottle of wine for just 1 singular penny. Go check them out. Dry Farm Wines, you guys. It's wine o'clock somewhere. Let's go get some wine. Helps that I've done it 9 times before, so I've been down this road a little bit. But like when I first started writing for a publisher, I had a few of those little thoughts of, well, who am I to write a book?